pleasure to welcome you all to today's session. Thank you for taking the time to join us as we take a deep dive into ESG's environmental framework and how it impacts the future of business. Here in the Philippines, we are seeing more companies aligning themselves to ESG considerations, and more they're coming out with bolder sustainability ambitions as we see growing demand from consumers and investors alike for businesses to be more purposeful and impact-driven. So we are happy to co-organize this session with MBC's ESG project team as part of their ESG Executive Series in partnership with the Center for International Private Enterprise.
Climate change is reshaping the world, and we need to make smart decisions in society, whether you're a government stakeholder or a business stakeholder, about how do we create security for the future for as many people as possible in an inclusive economic growth. The cost of inaction is more dramatic and worse than the cost of action. And standing still is not an option in this. And sometimes you can get paralyzed. You can be paralyzed as a business leader thinking there's too many choices. Yep. You just have to get stuck in and do it. And you have to take some risk in the process. Unleash the entrepreneur in you and take some risks on it, because standing still is not an option.
Not saying the industry, the practice is there yet, but that investors not only engage with their portfolio companies to change their business towards a greener path, but also to engage with policymakers to trigger those systemic changes, to trigger those climate policies that we need.
Investors don't have to take things out of their portfolio. They can work with their portfolio companies and advise them, offer them assistance and help them decarbonize. Even if that's an energy generating company in Asia that has coal-fired assets, they can help those assets move to potentially into renewable energy and actually shut down the coal as opposed to selling that asset to another buyer. So there are ways to think out of the box, to work with investors, to work with other peers in the environment that you're competing in to move to this low carbon economy as well.
How can we change the metrics and the rating frameworks that we use so that it does reward those actors, be they small or bigger players in the field, those who actually positively engage with policy? I think there's a lot of progress in this space, a lot of pledges by governments as well as by companies. But we need to make sure actions follow those pledges, correct? That actions follow those words. And that those words cannot be just gained achieving net zero.
Today's discussion deeply illustrates environmental issues as a universal concern. Risks of inaction are substantial and irreversible and will affect the bigger enterprise ecosystems where stakeholders such as small entrepreneurs in the supply chain, the labor community, consumers, and communities form part of the bigger casualties in the long term. Thus, the demand for environmental stewardship is crucially tied up with the principles of ethical investment and constructive capital.
I'm very lucky that I have children that remind me of my moral decisions to make on a day-to-day basis. This is also not about us. We're very lucky that we can change things, but we're not changing it for ourselves. We're changing it for the next generation and the next generation after that. So we all have a moral obligation to assist. So yeah, it's very simple for me. Pollute less and think about the next generation.